I'll try to keep this short and sweet. Have you guys seen Baader-Meinhof complex? Yeah?
Is that on your movie list? Because it should be.
I have it in my Netflix queue.
Oh my god.
It's good. It's late 60s and 70s, as many of you know. There are a number of militant, progressive factions developed, particularly in Germany, Italy, France. Italy, the Brigate Rosse, the Red Brigades. Germany, the main militant group was the Baader-Meinhof gang. They were identified as terrorist groups. And France was Action Directe. Did a lot of wacky stuff in the 70s. All three of these groups were lots of bombings, kidnappings, murders. The Action Directe in France managed to off the head of Renault and another industrialist, head of a major French corporation. I can't remember which one. And they did that in the 80s, and in the end it turned out that the people who were responsible for these two murders of these two top industrialists in France were actually two women. One of whom was 21 and the other was 22. Interesting. Anyway, Baader-Meinhof complex just came out a few months ago. It's about the Baader-Meinhof gang, and it actually does a very good job of both sort of expressing the real dissatisfaction with the state of the political institutions in Western Europe and the post-war period, especially in the 60s and 70s. You know, what drove these people to become infuriated, basically, with the functioning of the political institutions in Germany, West Germany, of course, Italy and France, and also the sort of colossal arrogance and stupidity of the people who are actually running the show in these organizations. So, interesting view. Also, if you're interested in this topic, Marianne et Julien. Anybody ever seen or heard of that film? Marianne et Julien, loosely based on Gudrun Eisland, who was one of the main operatives in the Baader-Meinhof gang. Late 70s film. Barbara Sucro stars. Who's the director? Margareta von Schrader. Very good little film. Anyway, it's not on the topic of the Italian New Left, really. So, giving a lecture on the Italian New Left and autonomous Marxism, it's kind of like giving a 20-minute lecture on Marxism. You can't really do it. I'm giving a class, a course on Marxism right now, and we're basically touching the surface of what Marxism and Marxist philosophy is all about, Marxist theory. So too, I could construct a whole course on the Italian New Left and on autonomous Marxism, and once again, we would just touch the surface of this very, very complex theoretical movement. So just a little bit of historical context, I think, always useful in understanding theoretical movements, the historical substrata, and just a couple of the main thrusts of what this theoretical group is all about, the Italian New Left and autonomous Marxism. The Italian New Left itself was a movement that got going, I would say, in the late 50s in Italy. Really got full speed ahead in the 1960s with the emergence of the most famous figures associated with the Italian New Left, first and foremost Antonio Negri, but also Mario Tronti, very, very important, Sergio Bologna. It basically dissolved, the Italian New Left basically dissolved in the late 1970s as part of the years of lead. By the late 1970s, there's political configuration in Italy which basically successfully criminalized activism of any kind. And most of the main figures associated with the Italian New Left were accused of being involved in the activities of the Red Brigade. There was never any shred of evidence linking any of these people really with any of the actual activities of the Red Brigades undertook. But the theoretical figures of the Italian New Left were basically criminalized. Some of them fled, like Tony Negri, and the movement itself just sort of collapsed by the late 1970s. But it gave birth to a flavor of contemporary Marxist theory that we refer to as autonomous Marxism. So anyway, the Italian New Left. Historical context. Well, in the West, throughout most of the 20th century, you've got basically two theoretical models for what Marxism and Marxist thinking, Marxist theory, Marxist philosophy and politics are all about. Italian New Left. That implies that there's an old left. And the old left in the context of Marxist theory, particularly in the 20th century, is, people help me out, the old left.
Marxist-Leninism.
Marxist-Leninism, basically. The Marxist thinking associated with the Soviet Union, ultimately the Soviet bloc, its theoretical underpinnings, allegedly anyway, Marxist-Leninism, sometimes also referred to as orthodox Marxism, right? So that's one of the main theoretical tendencies of Marxist thinking in the 20th century, right? We've got orthodox Marxism or Marxism-Leninism. The other main theoretical tendency of Marxist thinking, particularly in the West, in Western Europe, North America, places like that, the 20th century, is generally referred to as critical theory. The critical theory, which emerged in the Frankfurt's Institute for Social Research, which was established in 1923, post-First World War period. And again, they're the other really significant and powerful theoretical model of Marxist philosophy, Marxist theory in general in the 20th century. You got orthodox Marxism, Marxism-Leninism on the one hand, you got Western European, North American critical theory on the other hand. Marxism-Leninism focuses on the party, the organization and functioning of the party. Whether it's a communist party that is functioning in a, quote, liberal democracy in the Western world, one among several other parties, liberal parties, conservative parties. Here in the United States, there was no communist party really ever. But certainly throughout most of Europe, Western Europe, beginning in the 1920s and 1930s, communist parties existed, and socialist parties existed. So it's a theory about the organization and functioning of the Communist Party. Once again, whether it's the Communist Party of France, which is working with other parties, sometimes adopting an antagonist critical position, at other times cooperating with other mainstream political parties, or it's the analysis of the functioning of the party that is actually in control, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So it focuses on the party and the way that the party organizes itself towards the goal of organizing the social relations of production within the country. Or once again, cooperating or existing antagonistic relationship with other parties in the liberal democratic tradition with regard to these sorts of issues, right? Critical theory, what's that all about? Well, critical theory, which again emerges in the 1920s, adopts fundamental insight, which actually it shares with the Italian New Left, that, as Marx himself observed, capital is not a bunch of machines and buildings, factories and money. Capital and capitalism is fundamentally where you could say, the system of social relations of production, right? It is the social relations by means of which we as a society produce the stuff that we need. That make sense? As capital expands, gains greater and greater power and influence, first over the economy, it becomes hegemonic, it becomes the way in which the economy functions, right, in capitalist countries. It begins to infiltrate other aspects of social life. It begins to infiltrate the manner in which we spend time getting ready for work at the end of the day and in the morning. It begins to infiltrate the way that we spend our time that is not directed towards production. We used to call that, I guess we still call it, leisure time, right? And it comes to, once again, infiltrate all social relations, not just the social relations aimed at direct production.